A Halloween game was announced yesterday. It's going to be multiplayer, but then also have a story mode where you go against bots and you play as Michael and kind of stalk people and just stab them up. Developed by the same people that made Friday the 13th the game. And I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't play games that much anymore due to a couple of factors, one of which being that I'm just kind of sick of modern games. I think a lot of them are these unfinished demos that are released with the intention of squeezing more money out of the customer with a bunch of DLC that should have been in the game in the first place. And also just I don't really have people I play them with either, or have people to play them with either, so that's another factor. But I guess in just hearing this, and we'll learn more about it as we get closer to the release date, obviously, my mind started to kind of think about, if you're doing a Halloween game, because they're saying this is pulling from the first movie, big shock, big surprise. But if I were doing a Halloween game where there's a story mode, for the sake of not being so repetitious, I probably would want to incorporate other characters from the first movie and other types of gameplay. So, like, if your story mode is, let's just say, for example, playing through the first Halloween movie, you have the beginning section where you're, Michael and you escape from Haddonfield, and then you switch over to possibly Laurie for a chunk of it, and then Loomis for a chunk of it, just kind of playing through whichever sequence where they're talking to someone, looking around, etc. And then when you get to Halloween night, you play as Michael when he takes out his victims, then you play as Laurie again when she's being chased by him. And really, this would be a way of having you in the perspective of whoever the prevailing character is, given what scene you're playing through, right? So if you're the killer at a time where he's killing, then you kill. If you're the survivor at a time where they're surviving, you run away, get away. And I just think this would be a much more useful and less derivative gaming experience than just, well, you play as the killer and you get to stab up people against however many survivors. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where we haven't had a Halloween game in over 40 years, which is kind of crazy to think about, like since the Atari era. So for to the extent of just having a new game after so damn long, I'm happy for that. But again, you start to just think about all the different things that could be done, and then you look at what you're getting and you're like, well, is this really, that's it? I was a big fan of the Friday the 13th game, not even like just principle, but as someone who played it, who, enjoyed being on Crystal, in Crystal Lake, and just the interactive play of having people try to get away in a car, and it was nice. But is that something that can really work for Halloween, right? Because we talked before about how a lot of Michael's appeal is like the stalking, right? Like getting that one person by themselves. And when you have this character who is so synonymous with just going after one person or two people, when they're separated from everyone else, can you really translate that well to a game where there's multiple people or players who can presumably talk to each other and know, oh, he's over here or he's over there? And also, one of the mechanics that made that Friday the 13th game work was the teleportation feature. So even if Jason walks, slower than some of the other, some of the players might run, you still can catch up to them even if you're far away by just teleporting to where they are. Whereas with this game, I guess you're going to just be walking. I don't know. We'll see more footage of it, but I'm kind of like curious of how you'd even be able to get to people if they're running and you're walking, uh, without a similar feature of teleporting. But it's just one of those things where you really say to yourself, is this all we're getting? Or I hope that when this game comes out, it's a finished game. Whatever stuff that they have to put in after the fact is only a little bit, maybe a character here, a character there. But I guess you could say I'm cautiously optimistic. I certainly wasn't expecting it. I think of all the possible Halloween stuff we could get. We'd have sooner heard news of that really dumb sounding TV show than the game. But I would take this over the show in a heartbeat.